Step 6 is where we are going to research the answer. Now, I've got a whole detailed video on this, which I would invite you to spend some time on. But basically, there are 3 places where we can find the answer to this question. Firstly, we have the scenario, and that is probably the most important part of this. You have an entire scenario here, and many of your questions are going to be based on the scenario, or are going to draw information from the scenario. So if we take a quick look at these questions here, for example, it says here, your answer should be based on the scenario only, which means that the answer is either in the scenario or it's something that you can infer from the scenario. So there are clues in the scenario. Here it's asking us to comment on the health and safety culture at the company. And so we have some clues in the scenario which tell us what the culture's like, and we have to take those clues and comment on what we think the culture is like. And it's all in here. Literally, it's all in there. So if I go to my course materials and look at the section on culture, I've got loads of information on culture. What is culture? How culture affects safety performance? What does a bad culture look like? What does a good culture look like? Yeah, I've got tons of lists. And that might be super useful because that's good for revision. It's going to remind you what culture is and what it looks like. But that is not necessarily the answer to this particular question. Some of these points here may be relevant, but obviously it depends on this particular scenario, because in this particular scenario, we may have different signs of a good and bad culture. And also this isn't asking us for the signs of the culture, it's asking us just to give our opinion on what the culture is like. So the course materials are helpful, and they're super helpful for some questions. Like literally for some questions, they'll give you the exact answer, but they're not useful for every possible question, because ultimately the answer is in this scenario right here. So 2 places so far you can look at: the scenario and your course materials. And thirdly, we've got the internet, the tinterweb, as we call it in Yorkshire. You can just use your good friend Google or Bing, preferably not Bing, because it's a piece of crap as far as I'm concerned, but Google is pretty good. You could Google some guidance, Google a code of practice. You could just ask Google a question and you might find some useful website, a blog post or article which may help you find the answers to that question. Be careful though. Do not use AI to help you answer the questions. There are strict rules on the use of AI. See my other video on the use of AI, of what you are allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do, for more information.